how did you come to an agreement on what's acceptable and what's not when it comes to Forex trading? Because so much of it is, instinct or seeing something faster than somebody else or taking advantage maybe of just a little hole in the market.
Well, Bonnie, Mark, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about it today. As you know, the code was launched yesterday. This was the second phase of the code. The first phase was launched exactly 1 year ago, and we've already seen some of the principles put into practice over the course of that time. We spent time over 2 years and very deliberately took 2 years to complete this process to ensure that we had covered not just the easy issues, but the most challenging issues that the market might face.
Did you get input from Forex traders themselves? Because I know there was a lot of comments when you initially put out some of the research, but given that it's something that you have to enforce yourself, did a lot of people just write to you and say, this is great, but it's not going to work?
At the core of putting together the FX Global Code was bringing together what I believe is the most significant public-private partnership in markets that has existed. We had 45 private sector participants from every corner of the market, from Korea, from China, from India, from Brazil, Mexico, and all major centers, alongside with the leading central banks of the world, 16 central banks, heads of markets for each of those central banks. So our input was actually quite significant. At the end of the day, we believe we received well over 10,000 comments on the work that we were doing. So this 2-year process was all-encompassing in what we did. We think we covered all of the issues that affect the marketplace today.
David, the code's voluntary. Some might say tougher rules and enforcement might be a better solution. What do you say to that?
Mark, it's the question that I was asked most often throughout this process is how do you get a market to adhere to a voluntary set of principles? And I have two answers to that. One is these principles guide best practice in the market. And I think you have what is arguably the world's largest, most liquid, and most important financial market. Most wholesale market participants want that market to function more effectively. But as I think we all know, no principles, no rules, no regulations, no laws will stop someone who wants to act dishonorably or break those laws. We are counting on the market to adopt these principles and get behind them because it does lead to a stronger marketplace.
It seems that peer pressure, David, might be part of this. Is peer pressure enough?
It certainly seems to be. My expectation, and we've already seen good evidence of this, is that the entirety of the major market participants, the wholesale market, and this includes big firms, big sell-side firms, big buy-side firms, hedge funds, asset managers, corporations of all sizes have already indicated that they're willing to get behind the code, sign the statement of commitment, and begin to put these principles in practice. And
it's not just peer pressure, right? It's more managerial pressure. So you want to see your manager acting in the most ethical way possible because, he's at the end of the day responsible for your bonus and he's probably setting you targets. So it's very hard to, on the one hand, act very ethically, and on the other hand, if your manager isn't, you're not going to, right?
I think the tone from the top in any business is absolutely critical, and I think what we've seen over the last several years, following the financial crisis and the trust that was broken in financial markets, and then, as you highlighted at the outset, some very significant incidents in the foreign exchange market, has really changed the burden back to market participants to say we can oversee this market. As you know, the foreign exchange market has no central regulatory body. The principles are not intended in any way to replace regulation. They're meant to supplement regulation.
So in an exclusive interview with Bloomberg just in the last day or two, Vanguard's head of FX trading said he'd like to see last look gotten rid of. This is extremely controversial. If you can, in a nutshell, explain to us what this is and why it should go away, if it should go away.
Last look is a fairly complex practice, but one that's widely used throughout the market. And like any practice, if used appropriately, helps add to the liquidity and the smooth functioning of the market. If abused, of course, it will turn the market in a bad direction. What we've been able to do is provide some guidelines about how last look can be used effectively. And it relies heavily, as it does many principles in the code, on transparency and how market participants share information with one another. But I believe that last look, while it may go away in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, we believe that last look is an important part of the market today and helps that market operate more smoothly.